self-discovery. Yeah. So as always, we'll briefly discuss what we have learned so far. And today subject is also very important: substance and shadow. Mm. So primarily, we'll throw some light on how spiritual world and material world, how are they different? How is material world a shadow of the real substance, which is spiritual world? So let's first run through uh, what we have done so far. Yeah, day 4 summary. So just repeating again, the biggest duty of a human being, because he is a human being, is to inquire about God. Why inquire? We discussed that this material world, there are a lot of miseries. We discuss about 7 real problems. And we have two choices. Either we live with those problems, don't do anything about that, or use our higher intelligence and try to find solution for those problems. And how do we find solution? Is to find out from the one who has manufactured this material world, material universe. So that inquiry is very important for every human being. Athato Brahma Jigyasa means because you are a human being, you must make this inquiry and get rid of all the problems in this material world. And then we discuss about various methods to acquire knowledge: Pratyaksh Praman or direct sense perception, then Anuman Praman or knowledge based on experience, observations, experiments. And the third one was Shabda Praman. And then we discussed that how the first two methods, which is Pratyaksh Praman, is largely based on our senses, material senses. And these material senses have 4 defects by design. They are imperfect, they get illusioned, yeah, they are prone to commit error, mistakes, and to hide those mistakes, they normally, have cheating propensity. So any knowledge acquired through Pratyaksh Praman or through these senses is not perfect. So this method cannot be used to find knowledge about a perfect person who is the Supreme Lord. Similar Anuman Praman also we discuss, it is incomplete as far as trying to find out information related to Lord. And scientists normally rely on these two sources, Pratyaksh Praman and Anuman Praman. And we also discussed that this is half knowledge, because this is, they can't find out what could be the repercussions of that knowledge in the distant future. And we took some examples. And then we said the third and the most reliable method to attain knowledge is Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means knowledge which comes through disciplic succession, through a bona fide parampara. And because this knowledge originates from the Supreme Lord Himself, and He is a perfect person, so this knowledge is also perfect. It has stood the test of time over many yugas, many millenniums, many centuries. So this is the most reliable source of information to find out who is God. And through, Shabd Praman related scriptures, like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, we could understand there have been so many incredible predictions of great personalities, and also you get practically every knowledge of all fields from Vedas. So this Vedas are complete, knowledge. There is nothing which is not available um, in Vedas. And then we discuss nature of this material world is dukhalayam shashvatam. Yeah. So, but if you follow a bona fide sampradaya, attain the knowledge about God, then there is a possibility that we can get rid of this material world. Yeah. Then we discuss definition of life, car versus body analogy. The destination of car is to go to the company, and destination of body is to go back to the original abode or the spiritual world. And material progress is not sufficient to find any solution that is as good as only decorating the cage or the body, not really worrying about the soul inside. And then we discuss about what is the difference between body and soul. We said body is made up of Panch Mahabhut, which is matter, yeah, with no life, whereas soul is spirit in nature. Body is not conscious. Body becomes conscious when soul enters inside the body. Yeah. Otherwise, body has no life per se. But the soul is always conscious. How to recognize whether any object is living or dead? It's through consciousness, whether the object is conscious or not. Body goes through various changes, deteriorates over a period of time, but the soul, there is no change. Body is temporary. There is a beginning and end for the body, but for the soul, it is eternal in nature. Yeah. There is no beginning, there is no end. It existed in past, it existing now, and it will continue to exist in future. Body is by design dead, it's matter, but the soul is alive eternally. And we also discussed what exactly this eternity means. We took example of life of Brahmaji, that his life is in trillions and trillions of years. In fact, that also is like equivalent to time taken by a bubble to burst, as small as that compared to eternity. Yeah. So we have to be very careful in terms of deciding priorities, whether we want to ensure soul is protected, which is eternal, or bodies taken care of in a luxurious way, which is going to survive only for 50, 60, 70 years. So this knowledge helps what to prioritize in life. Where do we spend maximum energy? This slide is very important. I asked everybody yesterday, I remember, which is more attractive. And most of the people mentioned soul is more attractive. But it is not visible. And hence we study scriptures to get jnana chakshu, to understand and see the soul and get attracted to. Yes, till the time there is no knowledge of soul, one will tend to get attracted to body and get misled, identifying himself as the body, and the whole life being spent only to decorate the body, not really worrying about the soul inside. So studying scriptures like Gita Bhagavatam is very important to get those lenses, to get those eyes to see the soul, and then start working on it or start worrying about the soul. Then we discuss about how is this body different from other objects, this body undergoes 6 changes because of the presence of the soul. Yeah, a table does not go under these 6 changes. Table doesn't get, you know, is not born, doesn't grow over a period of time, doesn't produce another table or after 9 months, eh? uh, but it dwindles, but it doesn't grow all the 6 changes which a human body goes through because of the presence of the soul inside. Then we briefly discussed that there are 2 bodies, 2 material bodies, covering the soul. The one which is visible outside is called Sthula Sharir or gross body, which is made up of 5 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And subtle body, which is made up of 3 elements called mind, intelligence, and ego, or man, buddhi, and ahankar. And the soul, by nature, is eternal, full of knowledge, and blissful. And we discussed body is completely opposite to the nature of soul. Yeah. Soul is blissful by nature, which is Ananda, and body is Nirananda, completely against the nature of the soul, because it actually is the source of all miseries. Through body you can get little bit of pleasure, but every part of the body is designed to give us, unlimited misery. This finger, how much pleasure we get out of this finger, but if something happens to this finger, the kind of misery we will get out of the finger is unimaginable. So the body is the source of all our miseries, and soul is the source of real ananda or real bliss in life. And hence we have to be careful in terms of where we get attracted to, where we spend more energy after. Then we discuss how do we find out existence of soul. 4 or 5 ways we discussed. One was common sense. When person dies, body is still lying there, and we normally say somebody has passed away. Who has passed away? The soul inside the body has passed away. Body is still lying here. Yeah. And the entire life, if we loved someone, it was the soul, not the body. Because if we love the body, then we can still love the body. Body is still lying in front of us, but we don't. It means we love somebody else, and the person or the soul does not exist anymore. Through common sense, one can figure out that it is the soul which drives the body, which makes the body lovable, which makes the body adorable. Body in itself is simply matter made up of 5 elements. Yeah. And then body and soul is recognized through the consciousness. Yeah. It makes the object move. But object which doesn't have soul is stationary. It cannot move. It doesn't have any chetana or consciousness. So second symptom of soul is consciousness. Third, we discuss about various near-death experiences or out-of-body experience studies. A lot of researches have been done. A lot of great scientists have documented their findings that there are instances where the soul comes out of the body in certain specific circumstances, not in every case, and observes what is happening from outside, and then goes inside and tells what did it observe. It's all documented in medical journals. It's all factual. So that also proves that soul exists. And I mentioned many studies have been done on this subject. A lot of research has been done on this subject. And then we saw one actual research on reincarnation case, Shukla Gupta, a case done by Dr. Yan, in which she remembered the entire previous life, yeah, and took the entire family. Okay, somebody is asking me to show the video. I'll show it later on. Okay. So this little girl took the entire family to her old village in previous life, and took through different streets. She knew how to reach that place, the old place, and she, after she reached there, she recognized everyone in the family. So great amount of research has been done and proved that she remembered the past life memories. So which also proves that there is a life after death. Khao pio ash karo is a very dangerous statement. Just enjoy and forget about what happens after this life. No, as I mentioned, real life is after this life. This life is only 60, 70 years. So in the eternity of soul, this 60 years of life can make up those millions of years, or break up those millions of years after this life. So one cannot afford to be only satisfied with this life and forget about next life. As I mentioned, this life is just like a flash, 60, 70 years in the eternity of the soul. But the impact of this life could be either you stay here for many more lifetimes through your karmas, or you get completely out of this and free yourself from all the births which are you going to come after this life. So how important this body is, how important these 60, 70 years are. One has to contemplate on this. We can make or break our future lives, based upon how do we live this life, what kind of lifestyle we have, either it's material or spiritual. So it's very important to understand the value of this body or this life which we have at hand, and how do we use it according to the scripture so that we get the best output. Then we discuss what happens to us at the time of death. As a person puts on new dresses, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. And what body is a function of what do we do in this life, or what have we done in the previous lives. Yeah, so our actions decide, our consciousness decide, our mood, our attitude decides what body we will get in the next life. And if somebody glides down to animal species once again, then one has to go through 84 billion species, 84 lakh yoni aapne suna hoga, and then again come to human form of life through natural evolution. So one has to be very careful. On what basis is the soul awarded next body? Primarily, to whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body. What is the consciousness of the person while leaving the body? That state he will get. So primarily, it's a function of two things: what desires we have in the mind at the time of leaving body, and what karmas, good or bad, we have performed in our life. That decides what is our destination. Destination could be higher planets or lower planets. Yeah. So knowledge about what karmas we should perform is very important. As I mentioned, almost every moment we are doing something or other karma through our five, karmendriyas. So this knowledge is extremely important to guide our actions. As I mentioned, what kind of consciousness we have decides what life one will get in the next. Someone who is extremely fond of eating non-vegetarian, and so there is a possibility of getting a body in which he gets only non-vegetarian, and to fulfill all his desires for eating non-vegetarian. So one has to be very careful about what desires one has. Yeah. So either we, because we have a developed consciousness, developed intelligence to discriminate, so it is responsibility for a human being to lead a life full of responsibility, which is in accordance with the scriptures, not against scriptures. But if you engage in sinful activities, the destination could be very dangerous. We discussed there are four, pillars of sin. One was meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex. Why these four? We discussed. because these four, acts of, or for these four actions by a human being, it destroys the four pillars of dharma. If you remember, one of the dharma was daya or karuna or mercy, which is destroyed by meat eating. Another dharma was austerity or tapasya, that is destroyed by intoxication, because one who intoxicates frequently, he cannot do any kind of austerity because there's no tolerance power, there's no patience at all. The moment he feels sad, he picks up a glass of bottle or a glass of wine or a glass of beer. He can't tolerate. So where's the question of austerity? So austerity is completely finished, through intoxication. Third pillar of dharma is truthfulness, satyata, which is destroyed through gambling. And the fourth one is, the fourth one is cleanliness of body and mind, and that is destroyed through, unbonafide relationships or illicit sex. So these four are regulative principles for freedom. Yeah, one has to lead a regulated life following these four principles to free himself from various types of miseries. Yeah, so these regulations are actually principles of freedom. For example, if one has to, follow a norm of red traffic light, it means he has to regulate and stop the moment he sees red light. But that regulation is very important for him because it frees him from accident, it frees him from punishment, it frees him from arguments, fights, isn't it? So these regulations are very important for us to liberate us from even bigger problems. So the regulations we should not see as binding. मेरे को बांध दिया है नियमों में, भाई ये नियम जरूरी है. बच्चों के लिए नियम क्यों होते हैं स्कूल में, कॉलेज में? So that they are liberated from bigger problems. And similarly, all these regulations which the scriptures are describing, they are for our betterment. They are to free us, to liberate us from even bigger problems. And hence we must take these regulations as supportingly, willingly. If we lead responsible lives, following religious principles and practicing. And what are these 3-4, religious or spiritual practices we discuss? One is austerity. What is austerity? Austerity means willingly restraining oneself, from certain activities for a higher purpose. Yeah, it helps us to control our senses. We discuss how sense gratification could be very dangerous. When you fast on Ekadashi, you don't eat, you're controlling your senses. Through controlling your senses, you learn how to have patience, you learn how to tolerate the urge of hunger. So your tolerance level goes up, your patience level goes up, and you get purified from within. All these principles are not just for the sake of principle, they have a bigger purpose to achieve. Austerity purifies our mind, our consciousness, and brings a lot of control on our senses. Second one is sacrifice. What is sacrifice? Any act which is done to please God is called sacrifice or yagna. And we do various, like we offer prayers. It's a sacrifice. Prayer is to please the Lord because you're accepting Him as your Supreme Father and hence requesting Him. Or always being grateful for what we get, for air, water, sunlight. We never, expressed our gratefulness to the God. We can survive without mobile, but we cannot survive without water. We can survive without television, but we cannot survive without light, sun rays, isn't it? We can survive without car, but we cannot survive without air, which is required to breathe and stay alive. So, but we take these things for granted. So sacrifice is to taking out time and thanking the Supreme Lord for what He has given to us to survive. Simple, an act of prayer can please Krishna. Why? Because you are admitting, you being a servant of the Supreme Lord. And third one is cultivating real knowledge. It sharpens our mind. It sharpens our intelligence to discriminate between what is wrong, what is right. It gives us jnana chakshu, the eyes to see the real position of everything around us, in terms of our identity, in terms of who is Lord, what is this material nature, and what is the purpose of material nature, or whatever our existence in this material world. They tell us what are the laws of nature, what are the laws of God, so that we follow them, we harmonize ourselves in line those laws, and learn how to stay happy, peaceful in this, even in this material world. We're supposed to be dukhalayam. So there are so many scriptures available for us to follow. And the fourth one is, the first three things will happen if fourth happens, which is associating with such people who are cultivating knowledge, who are following austerity, and who are following sacrifices. So if you associate with such people, those three things will happen naturally. So this is the building, the foundation of our spiritual life. Gita says, Sangat sanjayate kama. जैसा हमारा संग होगा वैसी हमारे अंदर इच्छाएं उत्पन्न होगी. If we associate with such people, we develop desires automatically to get aligned with the God, with God's principles. If we associate with people who do not believe in God, we develop similar desires. So our association is very important in terms of what do we watch on television, what do we read in magazines, what do we read in newspaper, because these are all associations, mental associations. And what kind of people we associate with, be extremely careful in terms, because that's a choice you have to make. You have to choose your association and choose in such a way that it is for your betterment. It doesn't drag you down again in this material world. So one has to be very, very careful in terms of choosing one's association. Lord is greatest of all. Let us accept this fact at heart. We are all his tiny servants. Let's realize and serve him with joy. Isn't it? In a big company, everybody is trying to serve whom? The biggest person in the company, MD or CEO. I mentioned the same thing yesterday also. So if the supreme CEO of this, entire universe is someone, some God, what is wrong in serving him? If he is happy, you're happy. If MD is happy, I'm happy. Isn't it? It's common sense. Why to please him? Because he is the supreme Lord, he's a proprietor, he's a controller. So if he's happy, I'm happy. So we should understand our position as a servant of the Lord, not as a master. In material world, everybody is trying to become a master, trying to show his swamitva. I am the master of this family. I am the master of this company. I am the master of the society. Everybody is showing I'm like in position of God. No. And we are always tiny servants of the God. If you recognize this, it means we are living a natural life. If you don't recognize this, we are living an unnatural life like fish out of water. And then we could not discuss yesterday the practical benefits of this knowledge of soul in everyday life. 5-6 slides I'll run through quickly. The first one is, when you start practicing these spiritual principles, practices, one acquires good qualities automatically. Because God means pure, isn't it? Devoid of any faults. If you're associating with someone who is devoid of any fault, which is full of all good qualities, naturally you also develop all the good qualities. There is no morality without spirituality. If one does not follow spiritual principles, forget about he being a moral person. If you don't follow spiritual life, you follow material life, which develops demoniac nature. Asuri pravati. Material life means asuri pravati, only for self-enjoyment. And spiritual life means broad-minded person who thinks very big. And he or she is aware of, that actions which he or he does in this life will create good or bad future in the next life. Very careful. My actions now will create my good, bad future. Let me learn to love all living beings as God's children. I should give up negative qualities of arrogance, lying, yelling, hurting others for my good, and help give others peace of mind and get peace of mind in return. So, spiritual life means all good qualities. We want all our children to acquire good qualities, right? Simply expose them to spirituality. You don't have to do anything else. They will acquire all good qualities. There is no special coaching classes to be done for personal development, for good behavior. No, nothing. Simply let him live a good spiritual life. He will develop all good qualities. Yeah. Otherwise, if not, then all asuri, bad qualities. Freedom from lamentation, illusion, and fear. Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma na sochti na kankshati. One who has realized God, he is not hankering to get something, or he is not lamenting for what he has lost, because his view is now bigger. He knows he's a soul. He has a bigger purpose to achieve. When you're worrying for a bigger problem, you stop worrying about small problem, isn't it? If you're worrying about, let me get out of this material world in this life itself, that is the purpose of my life. If your worry is this, then all small material worries will vanish, isn't it? And if you don't have this bigger worry, all those small worries will look bigger. Like helicopter, when it takes off, when it's still on the runway, I'm sure you all must have experienced when you're sitting in the aeroplane, when it's on the runway, you can see a lot of big buildings around you, isn't it? All big buildings. But the moment you start going up in the air, up in the air, up in the air, up in the air, when you go up right in the sky, all those big buildings look small, isn't it? Similarly, when you go up, elevate yourself spiritually, all those problems which have the same size, it's not that building sizes come down, same size, but now they look small because you have elevated your consciousness significantly. So spiritual life means you stop worrying about small material problems. Your worry is even bigger. Eh? Right? So one who is following spiritual life based on his identity as a soul, he is naturally to become fearless in his life. Okay. You see all these sannyasis which come wearing saffron, they don't have even 10 rupee in their pocket, but they walk like as if they are the, what do you call, they don't have any worry at all. With no material possession, they are fearless. Why? Because they are not dependent on material opulence, they are dependent on God. Yeah, which is called surrender. So it is not difficult to get free from all the fear. Simply surrender. Universal brotherhood. You see all these, devotees, you can see one is South African, one is white, one is German, one is Jew. And you know how, conflicting issues they have, all these countries. Your forefathers, Hitlers, killed my forefathers, Jews. But fortunately, I have no enmity with you. Why? Because I know by the grace of Lord Krishna that you are not these superficial bodies, but spirit souls. Isn't it? Like the driver is different from the car. So while you might be black or blue or white from inside, but internally you all are souls, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So we all are same. Only this principle, this thought process on the platform of soul can actually bring unity and universal brotherhood, not based on external. But what divides us? White versus black, Indian versus Pakistanis, Hindu versus Muslim, rich versus poor, education versus illiterate, beautiful versus ugly, only bodily consciousness. All these people who call themselves, क्या बोलते हैं उनको, आध्यात्मिक, but they fight. They have no understanding of spirituality. Yeah. Principles of all religions are same. There is no question of fight. They only fight due to details. What is more important is principle, not the details. Yeah. So one who is living on the platform of soul, there is no question of anything which can divide the community. It can only unite. So if you really want unity in the whole world, in all communities, we have to teach this knowledge. That's why Bhagavad Gita is relevant for everyone, whether black body or white body. So there's no other option but to, spread this consciousness across the world if we really want to bring unity. Otherwise, there's no other alternative. Positive outlook and attitude to life. Why? Because there's a firm belief that everything happens with the sanction of God, and He's always my well-wisher. So even if I have a difficult time in my life, it is by the grace of God. It is a small part of His big plan, to protect me. That is the consciousness we develop. Like if mother hits a child, right? If child thinks, while my mother is hitting me now, but this slap also is a reflection of her love for me because she wants me to be protected always, right? Versus a child who is being hit by mother and he's developing, what kind of mother is this? Always hitting me, always punishing me. One is very negative outlook, one is very positive outlook. Positive outlook comes only on the platform of soul when you see real connection of soul with the God. The God is my supreme father. So if he's doing anything with me, it is for my good, not for my bad. And with that, you always maintain positive outlook towards life. But materially, we get frustrated, we get depressed, we start blaming God, we start blaming people around us, and we'll never take the responsibility of our life. Always externalizing the problem. He is responsible for my problem, he is responsible for my problem. But negative outlook. But spirituality brings one onto the platform of living his life with a very positive outlook. Yeah. Meditation for peace, happiness, and prosperity. When one realizes that he is not this body, he is a pure soul, yeah, then he adopts this practice of meditation. What is meditation? Simply remembering Lord through his names. Because scriptures say that there is no difference between the Lord and his name. Both are same. So if one calls Krishna, Krishna is present. Because the name is not different from Krishna himself. So one connects with the Lord through his name, which is as powerful as the Lord, right? And become fully dependent. Namashriya, it takes full shelter of the name and becomes peaceful, happy. Because this meditation process or the chanting process helps us revive our connection with the Lord. Like we have 8-digit number to call up your friend, your family member through mobile, right? And we have 16-digit number, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's a 16-digit number to connect with the Lord. And this is our mobile, yeah, our chanting bead. The process is same. One is material connection, and this meditation process helps us connect spiritually, yeah, with the Lord. And right use of the resources. Because you see everything as a property of the Lord, you use it very wisely, spiritually. Materially, you think all of this is mine. It only gives rise to selfish interest, nothing else. You know, there is a huge maldistribution of wealth in India because of this, anartha called greed. 60% of population of India have only 5% of national wealth. 60% of India's population has only 5% of national wealth. Top 10% of national population is occupying 70% of the wealth. So much of bad distribution because of this material propensities of greed and lust. So all resources available, to keep everybody happy. Everybody can remain happy and live a comfortable life. Because of our these demonic tendencies, we have created so much of maldistribution. Then one is sitting on excess resources and one is starving for resources. That is material life. But spiritually, simple living, high thinking. But now we are simply living, hardly thinking. Simply living, hardly thinking. And we have to migrate to simple living, high thinking, so that we can use all the resources wisely for everybody's benefit. Yeah. So acquiring divine assets, freedom from demonic nature, freedom from lamentation, fear, illusion, universal brotherhood, positive outlook and attitude to life, art and science of mantra meditation, and finally using everything very wisely so that everybody gets the benefit. Yeah. So this ends this specific subject of the soul. Now there were a few questions yesterday regarding demigods, Devi Devta, Bhagwan mein kya antar hai, kaun Bhagwan hai. So I'll run through a few slides to clarify this point, because this is also very, very important. We've understood goal of life, we've understood who is God, we've understood how to acquire knowledge about God, which is the most important or reliable source of information. We've understood who we are, right? Now let's understand, whom do we worship? Because we hear so many names, isn't it? So let's try to bring clarity on this. Yeah, this is the most misunderstood subject, and hence I would request all of you to be attentive. What is the difference between gods and demigods? This is Golak chart. Yeah, you see at the bottom there's a structure like a ball. Yeah, this is material world. Okay, in which you have these 14 planetary system. In the middle somewhere there is earth. Okay, on the top is Brahmalok, where Lord Brahma resides. Okay, and the bottom are all hellish planets below Patal Lok. Okay, 14 planet system. In the middle, earth. Above lokas are called higher lokas, like your heaven is one of them. So heaven or swarg is not spiritual word. Heaven is part of material world with relatively high level of comforts. Nothing beyond that. Okay. So we don't have to aspire to become swargvasi. And that is like, okay, a little more comfort in material life, but that doesn't solve all the problems. Okay. So this is material word. This is called a Vaikuntha. I'm sure you must have heard about Vaikuntha. This material word is called Kuntha. Kuntha means misery, a place of misery. Vaikuntha means where there is no Kuntha, or a place where there is no misery. All the incarnations of Krishna, of God, all reside here. Vishnuji resides here. Okay. So all the different incarnations are residing in Vaikuntha Loka. Over and above Vaikuntha Loka, there is called as Goloka or Golok Vrindavan, where Krishna resides. Yeah. Krishna is avatari or incarnator and has various incarnations. So he appears in different forms for different purposes. He appeared as Vaman Dev to deliver Bali Maharaj. He appeared as Narsingh Bhagwan to deliver Prahlad Maharaj. He appeared as Varahadev, yeah, to deliver Hinaksh, to lift the earth from bottom. So he incarnates in different incarnations or avatars for different purposes. And Bhagavad Gita says he comes to material world also in different avatars for different purposes. Yeah. So this is just an overview, just to give you what is material world, what is spiritual world. Hmm. Large part of the creation is spiritual world, not material world. Okay. Now, with this in mind, all the demigods, all the Devi Devatas like Ganesh ji, Durga ji, Indra, Varun, Chandrama, Surya, they all reside in material world here. Okay. Or God with capital D resides in Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan. Okay. Now let's see the difference between God. God is only one with capital G, and demigods, or what we call Devi Devta. You must have heard about 33 crores Devi Devta or 33 Koti Devi Devta. There are a number of demigods, but there is only one God. And let's see technically what is the difference between both of them. Okay. You see, on the left hand side, there's a body, and body has different parts. And the purpose of different parts of the body is to serve the whole body. Okay, that is one point. Second, on the other side, you see one organization structure of a company. On the top is Chief Executive Officer or MD. And then you have different departments. You have HR department, you have finance department, you have marketing department, you have sales department, you have supply chain department, like this. And under them, you have sub departments. There's a proper hierarchy in the company, in our government, anywhere you go, there's a hierarchy. Similarly, there's a hierarchy in the cosmic organization. There is one God, and he has different departments, and different departments are being operated through different demigods. It is not difficult to understand at all, but their powers are very different. Like here also, powers are very different between chief executive officer and a simple HR manager. Powers are extremely different. So let's try to understand what are these differences. Okay. Demigods are many. 33 crores, 33 koti, whatever we may call. But God is only one. One and only one with capital G. Okay. Then demigods are part and parcel of the God, the supreme whole. God is supreme whole like a body, and different limbs of the body are demigods. Okay. Demigods always worship the supreme as obedient servants. But God is supremely worshipable. Object of worship is God, and different demigods worship one God, the Supreme Lord. Yeah. Demigods are created by Supreme, and God is Supreme Creator because He has no origin. He is the oldest, always existing. But demigods are created by the Supreme Lords. One is created, another is creation. All demigods exist within material nature, within the material world, where Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi is applicable to everyone, including demigods. But God is beyond material creation. Demigods are delegated with various grades of power to manage affairs of the universe. Yeah, like Kuber is responsible for what? For finances. Yeah, sun god is responsible for light and heat in the material world. Indra is responsible for water. So similarly, the different demigods with different responsibilities, delegated different powers, and God is supreme controller. So all demigods function under the guidance of God. Demigods are subordinate to the will of Supreme, and God is supremely independent. He is not dependent on anyone. But demigods are all dependent on the will of the God. All demigods also have material bodies like us, and hence they are subject to birth, old age, disease, and death. But God is completely spiritual. He does not have body like us. No birth, no old age, no disease, no death. Okay. Like us, even demigods come under the influence of three modes: tamoguna, rajoguna, and sattoguna, in different extents. But God is completely beyond the influence of three material modes, these three gunas: tamoguna, rajoguna, and sattoguna. This material nature controls everything in the material nature through these three gunas. Okay. Demigods are temporary posts. So Indra is a post, is not a person. Different person, different times they come and occupy this post. Okay. The, and people keep changing on these posts. But God is eternally the same Supreme Lord. It is not a position, it's a person. Worship of demigods versus God. Normally people worship demigods for some material desires. Right? Like Hiranyaksh worshipped Brahmaji. For what? He wanted to become immortal. Nobody could kill him. Ravan worshipped whom? Lord Shiva. For again material benefit. Yeah. But devotees worship God without any material desire. It is called ahetuki bhakti. Because love is unconditional, isn't it? The moment there is a condition or expectation return, it doesn't remain love, it becomes lust. If you go to temple and read out your list, okay, so I will keep this fast, and this fast. Please give me good salary, good wife, good house. Is this love? This is business, right? This is not love. Love is for the Supreme Lord, which is unconditional, without any expectation in return. But demigod worship is primarily for some material desires. Yeah. This is very important to understand. Demigods will give you what you want. You go and ask for a beautiful wife and pay the price which is written in scriptures, they will give you a beautiful wife. You ask for a lot of opulence, you perform karam kandi activities as mentioned in Vedas, you will get that. So you get what you want, but God gives you what you need, not what you want. Because our wants are not always good for us. They could be harmful for us. Isn't it? Like a small child. He goes to a shop, takes out 10 rupee note and tells this shopkeeper, "Uncle, please give me one cigarette 555. Yeah. Please give me one 555 cigarette." And he's paying the price. Will the shopkeeper think he will take 10 rupees and give the cigarette? He gave the child what he wanted. He did not, contemplate on whether this cigarette is harmful or good for the child. Similarly, benedictions from demigods are of this nature. You pay the price, you get what you want. Pay the price in terms of whatever is mentioned in scriptures. And if the same child goes to his father's shop and tells Papa, please take the 10 rupee note and give me one cigarette, will Papa give him cigarette or give him one slap? He'll give one slap because that is good for him. Isn't it? So he will not give him cigarette. He will not give him what he wants. He'll give him what he needs at that point in time. Maybe a slap. So this is the difference between dealing of demigods and God. God will give you what you need and demigod will give you what you want. And our wants could be harmful for us. The results out of demigod worship or these, various material pleasures, they are material and temporary. But one who worships Lord, whatever he gets in return is always permanent and eternal. Yeah. We worship different demigods. Sometimes Monday fast, sometimes Tuesday fast, sometimes Thursday fast. So in scriptures it is mentioned, worshipping different demigods is like watering the leaves. Like you have a tree, for example, it has leaves, it has branches, it has fruit and flowers. You're trying to water each and every leaf of the tree. You're trying to water each and every fruit of the tree, of every flower of the tree. But worshipping God is like watering the root of the tree. There's a nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yatha tarur mool nishechanena tripiyanti tat skanda bhuj upshakaha prano fricha yathendriyanam tathaiv sarvahanam achyute jaya. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches, its twigs and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfies all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. This is the principle of worshipping God, and in the process, satisfying all demigods also. Because you cannot satisfy all the demigods individually, it's practically not possible. Suppose you worship Lord Ram and he becomes happy. Will Hanumanji not happy? He'll be more happy. His master is happy. So worshipping Lord Ram is automatically satisfying his servant Hanuman. So this is again a very common, sensical principle. So we need to have understanding of how this cosmic organization, what is everybody's constitution position, and hence deal with them accordingly. Yeah, we should worship God and we should respect demigods. We should worship God and respect demigods. Like a wife is always worshiping her husband, but she doesn't worship all the male members, only her husband. But she gives respect to all the male members. Same dealing. Worship God and respect all the demigods. Yeah. Bhagavad Gita says, men of small intelligence worship the demigods and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of demigods. And all these planets of demigods are in material world. So even if they're happy, all demigods, you will be remaining only in material world. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet, Vaikuntha or Golok, which is eternal, not temporary. So this is a result of worshipping demigods and result of worshipping God. Yeah. Lord Shiva to Parvati. Mukti pradata sarvesham Vishnur evana samshaya. Lord Vishnu is the giver of liberation to all the living entities. Of this, there should not be any doubt. Shiva saying this himself. And this is Shiva saying in Bhagavatam to Prachetas. Any person who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the controller of everything, material nature, as well as living entity, is actually very dear to me. So if you are praying Krishna, Shiva is also pleased. So that's why we need to read through the scriptures to get full understanding of this entire organizational structure and then deal with different entities accordingly, instead of what we hear or what we say. Many people, for the sake of convenience, they all are same, all go to the same path. It's not the case. All of them do not go to the same path. Yeah. So the clarity is very important. Yeah. What is the time? 1:35. So we have half an hour. I want to take few questions here so that we are not falling short of time for questions. Is that okay with you? If time permits, then we'll touch, the next subject. Because I have a few questions from the yesterday also. Okay. So let me first take few questions from yesterday and then we'll take questions today. Okay. Can you please switch on your video so I can see your faces also? Okay. Everyone, please. Few more are left. Okay. So yesterday there were a few questions. The first question was from Narendra Singh ji. Do we have? He is here. Yes, he is here. Okay. As animals distinct from Earth, same become man, and hence the population going up. Is that the question you asked? Okay. So there are 84 million species, okay, in the universe. 84 लाख योनिया, उसमें से 80 lakh species are of animals, trees, plants, etc. And 4 lakh species of human beings. Okay, how many? 4 lakh species. All these animals, they are going through a natural evolution process. Natural evolution process from one species to next, to next, to next, next, to next, and they finally come to human being species. Okay, so based on natural evolution, animals are getting a chance to get a body of human being. Okay, now why is population going up? That is your question. Suppose you are studying in, for example, 9th standard. Okay, next year 8th standard students also will come to 9th standard. Yes or no? So animals who are close to get human life, they also will enter human life. Yes or no? But ninth, if 9th class student do not pass and go out, the population of 9th class will go up. Yes or no? Now, who will pass out? Who gets out of this material world and go spiritual world. And most of the people do not follow spirituality in Kali Yuga. So they're all failing every year, staying there only. But lot of animals are getting elevated to human life. And hence your population of human beings going up. Okay, so if you all become spiritual and at the same rate we get out of material world, then population will remain stagnant. But people are not passing, but 8th standard people are passing and coming to 9th standard. Does it make sense? Make sense or no? Yes, that is the reason. Second question was on reincarnation from Nidhi ji. Are you there, Nidhi ji? Is she here? I can see the name. Can you please switch on your video if you are listening? Okay. She asked a question yesterday. So does people in our present life who strongly connect and positively connect with us or connected with us have strong soul connection or karma relation or karma relation of previous births? Okay. So how one becomes father or mother is your question, right? Is it a soul connection or body connection? Second question was, can one choose parents? Okay, I'll answer that later. How does one get next body is a function of two things we discuss. One is what are his desires at the time of leaving his body, based on what consciousness he has at the time of leaving body, and second his karmas. Okay, combination of these two decide कि आपका जन्म कहाँ होगा, धारावी में होगा या अंबानी फैमिली में होगा, भारत में होगा या साउथ अफ्रीका में होगा, ठीक है, गांव में होगा कि शहर में होगा, लड़की का होगा कि लड़के का होगा, सुंदर होगा कि बदसूरत होगा. So what desires we have and what karmas we have performed. So a soul comes to the womb of a mother based on karma, but there is a process. If followed by parents, they can invite a pious soul in the womb of the mother. This is called Garbh Dharan Sanskar. आपने सुना होगा. If husband and wife, they follow process of austerity before conceiving, as mentioned in scriptures, they can invite a pure soul inside the womb. But we have lost that knowledge completely now. Sex is a very sacred activity according to Bhagavad Gita, but we use it for sense gratification, for enjoyment. Everything you want to use for enjoyment, isn't it? So does it answer your question? Where is Nidhi? I'm unmuting you. Is that okay? Does it answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, yeah, that's it. Let me see today's questions. From Mamta ji. If the soul wants to get rid of the desire, then why take body to fulfill the desire? It is not easy to get rid of desires. Yeah. Our heart is full of desires. Is getting attracted by almost everything because of these senses. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mamev ansh jeev loke jeev bhuta sanatana manha shasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. It says, all these living entities are my part and parcel, but they are struggling in this material world. Why are they struggling? Because of these six senses, which includes mind. Because of six senses, we have umpteen desires, and we are working hard to fulfill the desires, but still never get satisfied, and hence always struggling. Now the question is, how do we get rid of these desires? Isn't it? How do we have attraction which is better than this attraction so that we lose this attraction? That is through the process of devotion. We have to channelize this attraction from material objects to God. When we channelize this attraction from material objects to God, we start losing taste for material attractions. This is the process of losing attraction for material world, having pious and noble desires at the time of living body, and then getting rid. Without following which process, one cannot get rid of material desires. Impossible. Gita claims this. Even, big scholars, big yogis, they fail to control their senses. Vishwamitra, he lost his control. He was a great yogi, isn't it? Isn't it? If he could not control, how can you and me? We are tiny, people in front of him. So unless we bring devotional component in our life, which is the process to generate attraction for the Supreme Lord, we will not lose attraction for the lower, world, material world. Okay, so we have to follow spiritual practices, devotional life. Then we can. Then this will happen automatically. You don't have to put extra endeavor for this, and we experience all of us. who are following spiritual practices, we all have experienced how we have lost taste in various material sense gratification through the process of devotion. Krishna means what? All attractive. Krishna is a Sanskrit word, and the meaning of Krishna is all attractive, one who attracts. The moment you put a sincere endeavor to go closer to him, you are attracted. And we are attracted by Krishna, you lose interest for other attractions. This is the process. Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then video. Okay, I'll see if I can show the video. Just give me a Amit Sharma ji. Where is Amit Sharma ji? Please raise your hand. Okay. Why Pandits ask her to worship the no grahas? The Pandit, they themselves are not devotees. We already worship Krishna, but then also they ask us to perform certain puja to please. Okay. See, what is worshipping Krishna means? Worshipping Krishna doesn't mean take few sticks of incense and rotate in front of him every day. Isn't it? सब बोलते हैं हम कृष्ण को जानते हैं, सब जानते हैं, लेकिन मानते नहीं है. कृष्ण को मानना, कृष्ण को जानना है. केवल इतना ज्ञान कि कृष्ण मथुरा में पैदा हुए, उनके पिताजी का नाम ये था, उन्होंने ये उठाया, पहाड़ उठाया, he is a great personality, so we worship him. No. We worship Krishna by following instructions given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. That is worship. Through the process of surrender. One who is fully surrendered, he doesn't have to follow all these karam kandi activities. Okay? हमारा समर्पण का स्तर क्या है, उस पर निर्भर करता है. If you're fully dependent on Krishna, fully surrendered, then not required. If not, then better do it. Okay? जैसे even पिंडदान भी यदि कोई शुद्ध भक्त है, fully surrendered है, उसको पिंडदान करने की आवश्यकता नहीं है. Because when Krishna is pleased, everything else is done automatically. But because we are not pure devotees still, we are in the process of becoming pure devotees, we must perform these karam kandi activities till that time. Till the time we are fully surrendered. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Transmigration can be inter-earth. Yeah, can be from one Brahman to other Brahman, from one planet to another planet, from one species to another species, anywhere. Yes. What is the highest form of devotion to God? In the form of friend, lover, parents, or a friend? Primarily, so she's asking how do we reciprocate, how do we interact with Krishna, which is the highest form. There are primarily 5 rasas in which devotees interact with Krishna. What are these 5 rasas? Shant rasa or neutrality, dasya ras as a servant, sakhya ras as a friend, then vatsalya ras as parents, and madhurya ras as a lover. Okay, शांत, उससे ऊंचा है दास्य, उससे ऊंचा है साख्य, उससे ऊंचा है वात्सल्य, उससे ऊंचा है माधुर्य. So madhurya rasa is the highest level of devotion. Okay, does it answer your question? Like gopis in madhurya rasa are the greatest devotees, but very difficult to understand the relationship. Unless our consciousness is pure enough, we cannot understand the relationship of madhurya rasa. Okay, any other question? Please feel free to ask any question. No question on demigods, God? Hmm. Okay. Can we close the session today? Okay. So there is a question. It is said God never experienced death, and we call Krishna as Supreme Lord, but he experienced death. Okay. So personalities like Krishna or his incarnations, they do not take birth or they do not die. They appear and disappear. Okay. In our material eyes, because they are playing the role of a human being, it looks like death. But their birth and death is not like ordinary human being. When Krishna took birth, he did not come through the normal route. He appeared in front of them as Chaturbhuji form with four hands. He was wearing all the clothes. He was wearing all the ornaments. He was wearing crown. Now, that is not the way we take birth, right? So he appeared like in Vishnu form. And then Devki said, Baba, people recognize you. Come like a small child. Then he took the form of a small child. So he did not appear or he did not take birth. He did not die. So they don't die or take birth. They simply appear and disappear. That is the right term to be used for, such people. Okay. Yes. Then what is this? When soul enter the womb, when soul enter the womb, exactly what is your question, Dr. Saab? Hmm? When soul enter the womb, in the sense when it is ready to get next body. Okay. So suppose somebody has done lot of sinful activities. He has to first visit hellish conditions, get sufferings, and then get next body. So depends upon, again, you know, what has been his karmas and what is destined, in terms of the next body or planet. How God will come to know about devotion for him in 800 crore population? Hmm. So he's asking 800 crore people. God is only one. How is, conscious of everybody's feelings? Hmm. Krishna is present in everybody's heart as Paramatma. So he can hear everyone. What you're thinking right now, he's hearing. Hmm. Krishna had 16,108 wives. Yes. And there were 16,108 palaces for 16,000 wives. And he was present in every palace with every wife. Now you and me can't do. He can do because he's God. Because he is God, he can give his 100% to every individual of 800 crore population. That's why he's God. Hmm. He is omnipresent. He can be present at one time everywhere. Okay. He heard Draupadi, no? He was not there that time. He heard Draupadi when she called, and he supplied entire mill, cloth mill, to protect, Draupadi. He was not there that time. Simply she called, she shouted, and he came. Okay. So he is hearing, he knows about, he is called supremely conscious. So he is conscious of everybody, every living entity. Not only human beings, every small ant also. Okay. In Brahma Kumari's soul is between eyebrow. I have never heard, never read. So one, you should check whether they belong to a bona fide sampradaya or not. Then you should trust what they say. Okay. The only way to test is whether the information is reliable or not, to check whether that sanstha belongs to one of those four bona fide sampradayas, paramparas or not. Otherwise, you cannot trust every information. So I have never heard that soul lies here. In all the Shastra is mentioned, it lies in the heart. Okay. Okay. What is that question? He was there during Dut Krida Mahaprabhu, but did not help Yudhishthira because he did not seek help. Sorry, what is the question? Krishna is asking a question. Can you please show yourself on the video? He was there during the Dut Krida of Mahabharata, but did not help Yudhishthira because he did not seek help. It's not a question. He's just informing. Okay, okay. Just informing. All right. Any last question before we close? All right. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you tomorrow in the last session. Okay. Hare Krishna.